Picture this. The clang of hammer on anvil echoes through narrow cobblestone streets. Sparks fly like fallen stars in the pre-dawn darkness. This is medieval London, where the most essential craftsmen weren't poets or painters. They were the masters of fire and iron. In the age of knights and castles, when warfare was as common as sunrise, one profession stood above all others in importance: the blacksmith. These weren't just craftsmen, they were the backbone of civilization itself. From the humblest farming village to the grandest castle, smiths shaped the very tools that kept society functioning. But here's where our story takes an unexpected turn. Before we meet our remarkable protagonist, we need to understand how we got here. The fall of Rome didn't just end an empire, it forged the medieval world. As Pliny the Elder wrote in his Natural History, iron possessed a terrifying duality. It serves both peaceful purposes, ploughing fields, raising buildings, quarrying stone, and the darkest of human impulses: war, slaughter, and plunder. The smiths earned their name from working with black metal, iron, distinguishing them from those who worked with precious metals like gold and silver. But iron was life itself, masters of fire. In those early medieval centuries, iron was so precious it was reserved almost exclusively for weapons and armor. Picture a blacksmith's forge tucked away in a castle courtyard, the heart of the operation, beating with the rhythm of bellows and the roar of flame. These craftsmen traveled with their lords like essential members of a war party, because without them, there could be no victory. But the work varied dramatically depending on location. A village smith, he was the farmer's lifeline, forging plowshares, horseshoes, the very nails that held buildings together. City smiths, especially as the Middle Ages progressed, became artists of metal, creating intricate door furniture for the soaring Gothic cathedrals and elaborate chandeliers for wealthy merchant houses. By the 12th century, something revolutionary happened. The guild system emerged. These weren't just trade organizations, they were brotherhoods that controlled quality, prices, and the very reputation of the craft itself. In 15th century Nuremberg, the rules were ironclad: 4 years minimum as an apprentice, annual inspections of every piece of work, and only the most exceptional craftsmen could achieve master status. But becoming a master? That was where luck met skill. A master smith needed more than talent. They needed patronage, opportunity, and sometimes a miracle. The apprentice system, forged in fire. Imagine being 7 years old and being sent away from home to learn one of the most dangerous trades imaginable. That was the reality for blacksmith apprentices. They lived with their masters, traded manual labor for knowledge, and endured 5 to 7 years of backbreaking work. Masters held absolute authority. Beatings and starvation were common punishments, justified as necessary to produce the finest craftsmen. It was brutal, but it worked. Poor quality work meant financial ruin for the master, so leniency was a luxury they couldn't afford. Now let me introduce you to someone truly extraordinary. In 13th century London, on the bustling Ironmonger Lane, lived a girl who would shatter every expectation of her time. Alice Le Hobigar, Alice the Mail Maker. Her father, Reginald, made a decision that scandalized their community. He trained his daughter exactly as he would a son. From age 7, Alice stood in their narrow timber-framed shop, watching, learning, breathing in the smoke and sparks of the forge. Women admired her father's progressive thinking. Men called him a fool. Their world was Ironmonger Lane in St. Mary Cole. Church Cheap, London's beating heart of metalwork. Picture their home, 2 stories of timber and dreams, with the workshop on the ground floor, opening directly to the street. Customers could watch them work through the shop front, witnessing magic transform raw iron into instruments of war and peace. The daily forge. work began before the sun dared show its face. The forge, a waist-high altar of dry-laid brick, had to reach temperatures that could bend iron to human will. Apprentices took turns at the bellows, their arms aching from the constant pumping that fed air to the hungry flames. Charcoal was stored outside. A single spark in the wrong place could destroy everything they'd built. The tools were simple but deadly effective: anvil, beak iron, hammer, and quenching tub. If iron cooled during work, the entire process began again, reheating, hammering, bending with precision, born of years of pain and practice. And never, ever at night. Iron work demanded perfect vision and steady hands. Darkness was the enemy of the smith. Alice's specialty? Chainmail armor. She didn't just make it, she perfected it. Starting with iron bars, she drew them into wire, formed small rings, then linked them into an intricate mesh of protection. Each ring connected to 4 others, creating a barrier that could turn aside sword and arrow alike. But here's what set Alice apart. While others used solid links punched from sheet metal, Alice riveted each ring closed. She flattened them with pliers and hammer, creating armor that was stronger, more comfortable, and more reliable than anything her competitors produced. The timing couldn't have been better. King Edward was at war with the Welsh, and there was endless demand for quality armor. Alice's shop became a hub of activity, buying looted armor from battlefields, melting it down, and forging it into new protection for the next wave of soldiers. The business of iron. Alice's success was infectious. Her father opened a second shop down the street, managed by her brother with 2 additional apprentices. But Alice remained focused on her masterwork, armor that carried her reputation across London and beyond. The community of cheap supported each other. Women brought cauldrons for repair, bought pins and brooches, and celebrated each other's success. Alice noted with dark humor that another smith on their row made chains for prisoners at Newgate, and rumor had it, torture implements as well. Legacy of steel. When Reginald died in 1271, 2 years before Edward became king, Alice faced a choice that would define the rest of her life. She had served her time, learned her craft, and proven her skill beyond question. Though women couldn't join guilds, her father recognized her extraordinary talent and left her one of his shops in his will. Alice did something revolutionary. She took on a young girl named Agnes as her apprentice. Like Alice, Agnes would never hold the title of master, but she would earn a good living and carry forward the tradition of women in the forge. The real Alice. Here's the remarkable truth. Alice La Hobigar wasn't just a character in our story, she was real. She lived and worked in London from 1271 to 1310, one of the earliest documented female blacksmiths in English history. Even after marrying twice, she kept her occupational name Hobigar, mailmaker, rather than taking her husband's surnames. This was virtually unheard of in her time. She didn't stop at blacksmithing either. Alice owned a brewery and worked as a landlady, renting out tenement housing. She was an entrepreneur, a master craftswoman, and a woman who refused to be defined by the limitations of her era. In a world where smiths boasted of their importance alongside carpenters, butchers, and bakers, Alice proved that the forge was truly indispensable. She provided the knives that fed families, the pots that cooked meals, and the nails that held civilization together. Her hammer rang out across medieval London, each strike a declaration that skill, determination, and vision could overcome any barrier, even those forged by society itself. The Iron Maiden of Ironmonger Lane had left her mark on history, one perfectly crafted ring of mail at a time.